In the furthest fascination of gods and goddesses, the land of Eskar, the country of Leonhard, the small town of Yuku, a young resident of this town rests and fights here. Lynn, the orphan of Yuku. His home village was ravaged by some kind of disease, but he was out with a group of hunters at that time. They had to burn the whole village down to stop the spreading of the disease. Lynn presumably lost all of his family members from the village. The hunters marched toward a nearby town. He was then later adopted by the Yuku town guildmaster, who personally trained him in the art of sword and the swiftness of the wind. Now, at the coming of age, the guildmaster let Lynn off to explore the world, like letting a bird out of the cage. While some parents would let their child, usually at around the age of 14 to 17, to learn how to fight and enter the dungeon, Lynn was taught many skills for years until he turned 20, which he did now. Lynn was respected and looked down upon by a few people for being an orphan of Yuku, then having the privilege of being adopted by the guildmaster. Quite a few adventurers denied the idea of forming a party with him, saying that his skill is nothing compared to the experience that they had. But at last, now that he is released into the world, he will either prove them right or wrong, but most importantly, to put those skills into a good use. He was growing up with a few kids who was taking a liking to him, and would tag along with him into the dungeon. After all, they trained together as teenagers. Although his friends have gone into the dungeon before he does, which gives them more experience than Lynn, they don't mind being his guide. He's their friend after all, and so he'll show what he can do with all that training of mastery and techniques. His friends consist of 4 individuals: Ulysses, an archer who uses a bow; Mokus, a tamer who specializes in taming animals and has a tame bear; Sylvester, a mana user who specializes in mana, using a mana bow or an ability to heal. Lastly, a son of the town's blacksmith, Franka, who uses a warhammer as a weapon. Suffice to say, we have a range and variety in this group. But what about Lynn? Well, he's a mix of swordmaster and a mana user. It seems that he was gifted with the power to control mana, and as a swordmaster, that kind of mix creates an interesting combat style. He can apply elements onto his weapons, though he hasn't tried any of it yet, not even while he was in training, so this will be the chance for him to show it off. So, a swordmaster, ranger, tamer, mana user, and an absolute unit who uses a warhammer. And so, they form a party, and off they went, into the slumbers of monsters, into the Slashfell, participating in Lynn's first hunt. Lynn and Franka will be in the front. Me and Sylvester will be your back support. And Mogus, please be your core of the party, said Ulysses. Ulysses is a very skillful archer, despite being 2 years younger than Lynn, and has been respected by most adventurers. Entering the dungeon, this is just their first floor, although Lynn doesn't seem to be nervous, knowing that he's with his experienced friend. He just needs to test out his skills and talents that he has. On their way forward, they face giant rats and slimes. Lynn, breathe in, breathe out. And with that, he swiftly charged his sword, fencing into the enemy's skin, then slashed it to the right. It was a clean kill. This is what he called Phoenix fencing technique. His sword is lining off the fence, creating an entry hole, then ripping open anything from the inside. Though it was estimated to be very effective to soft-skinned monsters, in practice, it proved the theory to be right. There's also a technique called reverse phoenix fencing, which goes by the slash first to make an open wound, then fence, then slash again. Maybe these low-rank monsters are too underwhelming for these techniques. The others seem to be doing fine, and it seems to be more effective when Ulysses or Marcus is clearing out the low-rank monsters. Marcus' spear can passively scare away the monsters, while Ulysses can swiftly take care of any threat from range. They slowly descend into the deeper dungeon. Sometimes they get reckless and take some damage, but Sylvester are always there to heal them. As for Franka just pulverizes everything that stands in his way, really. Though sometimes the monsters are too fast for his warhammer, so Lynn would have to deal with those on his behalf. As Lynn cuts through monsters, some kind of gem dropped from it. Sylvester said aloud, "Oh, a mana gem. What is it, Sylvester?" Questioned by Lynn. Sylvester answers, "A mana gem is sometimes dropped from monsters, mostly from high-ranked monsters, though lower ones drop one too. The higher ranked they are, the higher the quality these mana gems are. It is to be used with mana user, such as myself." Sylvester continues her explanation. As for its use, is usually to store mana in them, and use it as a way to regenerate your mana, though there's other use for it too, like overcharging your spell for example, to make it more powerful. Seems like someone is exciting. Lynn then expressed, "I may have a use for it too then. I'm also a mana user, though I wouldn't quite know what to use it for me." It is true that he is gifted with the ability to cast mana abilities, yet also a sword master. Sylvester then answers, "Well, I can cast mana missile, fireball, and other offensive abilities, along with something like healing. If I have to tell you as a mana user, you might be able to utilize that while you're fighting with your sword, though in practice I wouldn't know how that works." Let's put that to a test then. We are past the F-ranked area, right? D-ranked monster should be a perfect foe to test this out, expressed Lynn. Sylvester handed over the mana gem to Lynn. "Here, have at it. I'm sure we all wanted to see how you use it too." Sylvester expressed her excitement. The mana gem, they feel rejuvenating. Just holding on to it is enough to make Lynn's spirit understand the gem itself, like it come naturally to him. Lynn hasn't tried using his mana abilities all this time, because he was too focused on his sword fighting capabilities. From what he can remember, mana users chant a spell to use their abilities. He recalls that Sylvester taught him a few useful spells before, such as Closing Wound, which is a beginner spell for healing, and Mana Bolt, which come in all kind of elements, like fire and ice. Her mother, who is also a mana user, experienced one at that, also taught him something that may be very useful to him. The enchantment, applying rare status on his sword, boosting the weapon effectiveness further. Let's start with the basic mana bolt spell, Fire. It is a mana ability that lets you cast fireball onto enemies, very effective against soft target. Further ahead is D-rank monster zone, shouldn't be a problem for the fibers. Confidently, said by Yursen. "I'm curious of what you could do, so how about it, Lynn?" said Franca, holding his warhammer in a defensive position and letting Lynn take the lead. The previous floor was full of slimes and giant rats. Soft targets for beginners, or some kind of test, depending on how you perceive them. On this floor we have a hound. They are way bigger than a wolf in the wild, and they are relentless. Along with a couple of goblins. These are the type that are intelligible. Unfortunate for them. Lynn thinks to himself, he should save those phoenix fencing technique for a tough enemy, since he used quite a bit of power to perform it. The hounds then surround the party, number around 5 to 7. There's a leader in the front. Guess Lynn will have to test his mana abilities on that. Mocha's bear alone should be able to hold half of the hounds, while Yudesen and Sylvester can take care of the rest. Franca, on the other hand, is in a defensive position. He's willing to tank the damage. Lynn slashes his sword in a combo to deal damage to the hounds, clearing his way to reach the pack leader. Finally, at optimal range, Fire. The spell formed on his left hand and shot a fireball at the pack leader. Oddly enough, despite having fur, they didn't catch on fire as Lynn had originally thought. Those fur must have been very thick. Lynn thinks to himself. The pack leader charged at Lynn. He defends himself with the sword, slashed the hound back, and takes a quick step away from the leader, contemplating on what to do next. Fire, once again, shooting a fireball from his left hand, this time to make the pack leader move. At that moment, he slashed it, take a step back, concentrate his thought and puncture it, then slash it from the inside. The reverse phoenix fencing technique. The leader is tough though, as this does not kill it. It howls to signal the other hounds. It tries to retreat. Oh no, you don't. Franka charging himself towards the pack leader, swinging his warhammer against it and launching it real far. It hit the wall and is whimpering. The other hounds were confused. Let's clean them all up, said Urizen, eliminating the rest of the pack, leaving them with the pack leader. This thing is tough. I thought with my technique I could defeat it, expresses Lynn. Lynn, it'll take more than skill to defeat something like this, so don't worry much about it. Besides, you did a good damage to it, said Silvetta. The pack leader is still alive. What should we do with it? Not like I can't train it, but that'd be tough, to have a monster pet. But then again, that's kind of my role here, said Mokus. We either kill it out of its misery, or adopt it into our party, said Urizen, with not much of an expression one would expect. And so, they wandered for a good amount of time. I'll take care of it. I'll tame it, said Lynn, surprising everyone. Wait, Lynn, you do realize that you're not a tamer, right? How are you gonna tame it? Questioned by Silvetta. Well, for starter, I could heal it, answered Lynn, casting a closing wound on it. It became confused. Even with some healing, it is still severely damaged. It's not docile, nor afraid. The creature is just flabbergasted. Lynn tried to pet the creature, and finally reaching his hand onto its head, patting it like a town's wolf. I don't know whether it should be impressed or weirded out by this. I guess the creature will respect you as a master, someone who's strong and capable of defeating it. So it's accepting its fate, said Franka. Fate, huh? I wonder. Expressing by Lynn. We've been in here for quite a while now. I think we should go back and get ourselves some skivers, said Marcus. Which then continued to say, and I'll spot you. It's your first time fighting the real thing and gain experience. Got to congratulate you on that, Lynn. Franka then spoke confidently. You are a part of us now, Lynn, just like we always were. But this time, you become one of us. Let's enjoy our hunt and what come after, should we? Everyone nodded to that. They're going back to the town, leaving the dungeon. The story has only just begun, but soon they'll go deep enough to disturb something they shouldn't have. But it'll be long before then, so their chapter ends here, for now.